Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Just Daf It. Today we're doing Masechtas Nazir Daf Lamed Zayin number 37. We have a great shir for you today, the best shir, led by the one, the only, Ben Sion Lane. Give it up, folks. All right, let's start. About the fifth line down, Amar Le is the first word of the line. Sorry, not the first word of the line, last word of the line. Amar Le Abai. Abai says, how do you know? Right? He's questioning Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi quoted the name Rabbi Abba or the name Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan's statement that Mishras comes to teach you the heads of Mitzaref Lister, the case of Shara Pito Bayayin. According to the art scroll, we'll go with the simple explanation of art scroll. He dipped his bread in wine, right? If you have, let's say, 49% bread and 51% yayin, so it combines for a kazayas to make you chayav for eating a nazir. Heter, the bread, which is heter, which is mutter for a nazir, combines. Dilma, right? Litain tam kicker. A new suggestion. Maybe the word mishra has nothing to do with heter and saraf listeners. To tell me that if I were to take wine and have the wine give tam, right? You cook some wine with water, right? And it's less than shishim, so it gives tam to the water, and therefore eating, or you put a grape in water, or you put wine in water, and the water is less than 1/60th. So now the water, if you take the grape out or the wine is mixed in, all of the water, which is previously water, is aser because tam keker, right? We'll learn about hilchos kashas and basar b'chala. If a drop of milk goes into a piece of meat, tam keker, right? If it absorbs taste, if it's no same tam, it gives tam. It asers the entire piece of meat. If you taste the milk in it, generally 1/60th is the ratio. The Gemara first question about me. Karaka Kashale might come Rav Dimi, become most of like Kohalan to you. Abai was asking differently at Rav Dimi. He was asking, how do you know about why is Heather Mitzaref L'Isra only by Mishra, by Nazir? Maybe it applies by Truma also. That was Abai's question. He gave a whole bunch of questions yesterday to try that it applies by Truma also. And now he's saying no. He's going back and saying it never applies to Heather Mitzaref L'Isra. Before he was trying to say Heather Mitzaref L'Isra applies more. And now he's rejecting the entire concept of Heter Mitzaref L'Isra. Hadar Amar Lei Litin Tam Kikar. So the answer is Basha the Shani Lei. Once he gave satisfactory answers, Rav Dimi Amar Lei Dilma Litin Tam Kikar. He's trying to ask Rav Dimi from all sides. First, he tried to say, why do you say only Heter Mitzaref L'Isra in that case? Maybe Truma also. And now, once he answered those questions satisfactory, so in a satisfactory manner, so therefore he's asking from a different perspective. Maybe it's not to tell me Heter Mitzaref L'Isra at all. Maybe it's only Tam Kicker. Udas. Tanya, because we have a Brisa which says Mishras. We get Tam Kicker. A Brisa, there is an opinion in the Brisa that says Mishras doesn't teach me Heter Mitzaref L'Isra. It teaches me Tam Kicker. What Shimshara and Navim Amayim? Let's say you soak grapes in water. V'yeshkain Tam Yayin. You soak them for let's say 24 hours, right? Which gives the taste of the wine, the water chayiv. You're chayiv for drinking from the revius of that water. And now is the tam, the taste of grapes. And from Nazir, you learn tam keker to the rest of the Torah. Ma Nazir she'eni surah isra olam. A Nazir doesn't apply forever, right? After 30 days, usually Nazir is over. Any surah isra hana. It's not asr b'hana. Grapes, you can get benefit from grapes. You just can't eat them. V'yesh heter li surah. Right? If you want to be matir in Nazir, you can be matir in Nazir. It's gone. Asabo tam keker. In Nazir, we still find the concept tam keker. Kilaya kerem sheisur in Israel. When you take kilaya kerem, for example, let's say you have a forbidden mixture that you made in the grape. You planted, the classical cases, you plant chita and saor and geffen. You plant a grape seed and a wheat and a barley seed together. According to Rabbi Lai, you need 3 of them, right? So now you produced a new kind of concoction, right? A kilayim, a mixture of grapes and wheat and barley, right? Sheisur in Israel. By kilayim, it's also forever. The Isur Isra Hanaya. Not only can you eat it, you also can't get benefits, right? In Heter Lisuran, there's no way of getting rid of the Isur. Certainly Kilaya Kerem, if you soaked it in water and there was less than Shishim, the water would be Asra Kilaya Kerem. Who adin Arla B'Shtayim. And same thing would apply by Orla, which has 2 out of the 3 things, right? It doesn't have the concept of Isra Olam, because after 3 years, Arla doesn't apply anymore, but it does have Ein Heter Lisuran, and also there's Asra B'Hana. So Amar Lei, Homer Abanon, So he answered that. However, one of the Rabbanan in the yeshiva answered the question of Abai. Rabbi Abahu kigamar le Akiva. Rabbi Abahu, yes, there is an opinion that says Mishras means Tam Kicker. But Rabbi Abahu, when he says it's Hetam and Saraf Isser, kigamar le Akiva, he's going according to Rabbi Akiva's Shita, who seems to be the accepted opinion in our Mishnah. So the word is, hi Rabbi Akiva. Which Rabbi Akiva he's referring to? The Rabbi Akiva the Hacha in our Mishnah, the son of Rabbi Akiva, Omer, Afilu Sharapita B'yayin, V'yesh to the Saraf Kazayas Chayav. Right? Even if you dipped your bread in wine, right, and you have a Kazayas of wine, you're Chayav. And my Dilma, it's not because Heter and Saraf Isser, Dilma, who Dika Kazayas Beina. Maybe when you dipped your bread in wine, right, there was a Kazayas of wine actually absorbing the bread. What's the Chiddush? Right, obviously, if you drink Kazayas of wine, you're going to be chayav. No, he says, Tanakama says it always has to be a revius, which is 3 Kazayas. His Chiddush is when you dip the bread in the wine, then it gets the share of Achila, a Kazayas, 1 ounce of the wine is good enough to be chayav you. Ella, so that's not a good proof. It's not proof Hetem Mitzvah L'Isser. It's not the bread Mitzvah L'Isser. You have a shear of a Kazayas. And that's really the way I explained it in Yud Ben Sion yesterday. We'll talk more about Yud Ben Sion. Even though I give 3 Yud Ben Sions, the 3rd Yud Ben Sion, I'm giving a Shara Pita B'yayin, but I want to prove it from our Gemara over here and give a final perspective on what it exactly means. El Rabbi Akiva the Brisa must be Rabbi Akiva on a different Brisa. The sign Rabbi Akiva Omer and not just Shara Pita B'yayin. The Achal Kazayas mi pas Yayin. The Kazayas is combined of pas and yayin chayav. So therefore, it eats bread and wine together to form 1 Kazayas or chayav. So you see the heter mitzvah l'isser, the pas which is heter and mitzvah joins together the yayin. A combined Kazayas is chayav. We'll explain this line more in Yud Ben Sion. According to the simple article explanation, it means you dipped your bread and wine. You ate a kazayas of bread and wine together. According to Rabbi Akiva, who says Mishras teaches me heter mitzaref l'isser, litin tam ke'ikr minole. Where does he know? Obviously, the tam ke'ikr is a halacha that we know when the Torah applies. Where do you know that from? So the Gemara says, he first says, Yalz mi basar mechalav. You learn from basar mechalav. Lav tam ba'almahu. The Asr, we learn Masechus Cholin, right? If a little bit of milk gets absorbed in the meat, it asers it. So therefore, the rest of the Torah also. Rabbanan, why do they learn Mishras? They teach Tam Ge'ikr. Basar b'chalav. Why do you learn Basar b'chalav? The Chidushu. Basar b'chalav is a unique halacha. My Chidush. What's the Chiddush? Really, milk is mutter by itself, and meat is mutter by itself. So therefore, then we say Tam Ge'ikr. Because it's a unique thing that, right, a heter and a heter make an isser, right? Normally a heter and a heter don't make an isser. So if a heter and a heter make an isser, maybe it's more severe, right? Right? If the Torah was machmer so much, a heter and a heter both made an isser together, maybe only their tam ke'ikr. So the Gemara says, Kilayim nami hayli chudei shari, hayli chudei shari. Uvahade hadade asr. We know by kilayim, right, when you plant grape seeds, and you plant wheat and barley together, right? Grapes by themselves are mutter. Wheat by itself is mutter. Barley by itself is mutter. You'll plant it together. Mapol is yad. Rabbi Eliezer is mesachas brachos. Right? It's the same halacha. Right? So it's not a chiddush by basar b'chalav. It applies to Kilei Kerem also. Ella, the chiddush by basar b'chalav. The Torah le kul yoma b'chalba. If you soaked, right, meat and milk for an entire day, shari. Technically, that's mutter. Even though there's tam, there is going to be tam. Right, the Gemara says in Masechus Chulin that kavush k'mavushal. Right, if you soak something, it's like mavushal. But the Gemara is only derabanan. If you soak something for 24 hours, it imparts the taste, but it's like mavushal only derabanan. So midaraisa it's mutter. When you cook it together, then it gets a tam. So if it gets a tam by soaking it, it's not asr. If it gets it by cooking it, then it is us. So that's why it's unique by Basar B'chalav. You can't learn from there. Rabbi Akiva nami Basar B'chalav Kiddush. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva, so the one say you don't learn Basar B'chalav. Rabbi Akiva also, how could he learn it from Basar B'chalav? It's a Kiddush. Ella, so the Gemara concedes he has to learn it from somewhere else. The top of Lamed Zayin at base. Yalif Megulei Ovdei Kochavim. He learns it out of the Torah when it talks about Parshas Midyan after Klal Yisrael defeated Midyan after the incident with Bilam. They captured a lot of spoils from the non-Jews, the Midyanim, and they had to make it kosher because they cooked non-food, nevela and shreifa in their kalim. So the Torah says, "Damar Rachmana kol davar shegava b'eish." Anything which is cooked with fire, right? A pot which was used to cook nevela with fire, so you have to clean it with fire, right? Kibolo kachpolto, the Gemara, right? The way you cleanse something is the way it absorbed it. So the pots have the absorption of nevela and treifa that they cooked with, so you have to kasher it. So why is the pot aser? Obviously, the entire pot, just by cooking a piece of nevela on it, it gets the tam of the nevela. So therefore, the entire pot is aser, tam kicker, even though it only absorbed in a specific place. Remember, the member of the asiri gule of the kochavim, the memra the asiri gule kochavim lav taima ba'almahu, right? The fact that, right, when I cook with a pot that was absorbed, right, previously cooked with the vela, and now I cook kosher food in that, so it imparts a taste through the pot. It imparts a taste in the food. It's not that I said it imparts a taste in the entire pot. When you recook kosher food, the pot that had nevela taste, it imparts it in the new food, the kosher food that you cook. Lav time of aser and asher. So here also, there's no difference over here. So therefore, we learn that tam kicker. Why do you learn golei? That's a unique case. There, it's not nosin tam l'shvach, right? The tam that it gives, usually when you cook with pots, is past 24 hours. Past 24 hours, the tam of the basar nevela already soured. And when you cook something after 24 hours in that pot, it imparts a bad taste. A bad taste, we learn in Masechah School, is not considered aser. The fact that the Torah was makbid over there, even though presumably the pots of the minyanim were used after 24 hours, said that's a chiddush. Tam knows down l'fgamim when by nevela and treifa of their pots is aser, but normally you can't learn from that because it's only nosin tam l'shvach asers. A good taste it has to impart. He also, it's a chiddush. When the Torah was talking about the pots of the minyanim, it only really was talking about a specific case where they just used it. You killed them that day, and they had cooked in that pot while they were in the war with you, and then you captured the spoil, you used it. The lab knows the tam of gabu, and therefore we can learn through the entire Torah, right? Where the Isser is knows the tam l'shvach. Rabbanak der bas yoma nami. I want to say, even if you'll say the case of the minyanim was talking about a case where they used the pot within 24 hours, even within 24 hours, even though halachically pasuk der bas yomi, it does nosin tam l'shvach, there is a little bit of pagam within 24 hours. It doesn't taste complete as if it was fresh meat, fresh nevela meat. So because it's absorbed in the pot, right? Kind of rusty a little bit, doesn't taste as good. So therefore, it's no sintam lepgam a little bit. And therefore, the fact that it aser by non-kosher food, by gulei of the kachavim, so that is a unique chiddush. Amalei Ravacha Brei Ravi Ravashi. Ravacha says Ravashi, min Rabbanan nishma Rabbi Akiva. From the Rabbanan, we should learn to Rabbi Akiva. Allow me Rabbanan high mishras lizi tam ke'eker. According to the Rabbanan, they learn the process of mishras is to teach me tam ke'eker, that if you soak grapes in water, it asers the entire water. And therefore, you learn from that to the entire Torah. He learned something else. He decided Mishras is more reasonable to teach me heter mitzaref l'isser. Say, why did Rabbi Yochanan say only by Nazir? Everywhere in the Torah, it should heter mitzaref l'isser. Right? No one says anywhere it applies besides Nazir. We had an opinion, Zairi says maybe it applies by chametz and by bal taktiru, burning chametz on the mizbeach. That was only according to Rabbi Lazar. Abaye said Truma, we disproved Abaye. So it only applies by Nazir. Why doesn't it apply to everywhere else in the Torah? Amalei mishum to having Nazir chadash shtei ksuv and aban ke'echad. The reason it doesn't apply, according to Rabbi Akiva, elsewhere in the Torah, because it only applies in two cases, by Nazir, and we're learning now chatas also. According to chatas, we'll see exactly what this means. Those are two examples. Whenever the Torah goes out of its way to specify two examples have a certain characteristics, it's to teach you those two, yes, and everywhere else, no, you can't learn from them. You can't learn from them. Nazir hadam, or Nazir we know from Mishras, teaches me heter mitzaref l'isser. Chatas mahi, where's the boss of the chatas? Korban chatas, heter mitzaref l'isser. The Sagi, the Brayos says, kol sheyeh b'bsara yikadish. The boss is talking about korban chatas. Anything which touches the meat of a korban chatas while it's hot, right? B'bsara yikadish. The meat, let's say if shlomim meat, korban shlomim, touches the hot meat of korban chatas, it's makadesh. It makes the shlomim kodesh like a korban chata. It's korban chata is kachim, shlam is kachim kalim. Yachal afil shalabal. You might think even if it didn't absorb the taste. Until it actually imparts taste in the shlamim, meaning it's less than 1/60th. It imparts enough taste to have taste of the chatas in the shlamim. Yikadish. The kamo shim psula. So therefore, it makes when you have the requisite amount, the chatas makes the shlamim like chata. Shim psula hi pasal. Right after carbon chatas is already pasal, meaning it passed the time for eating the chatas. Chatas only have 1 day and 1 night to eat. The shlamim have 2 days and 1 night. So therefore, after 1 day and 1 night possible, you can't eat the shlamim anymore, even though normally the shlamim could be eaten for the extra day. If it's the chatas is kshera, you have to eat the korban shlamim in a way that you eat like the chatas, right? The korban chatas has to be eaten by kohanim in the azara, and it has to be eaten only for a day and 1 night, and therefore the shlamim also that touched it, even though it's within a day and a night, it has to be eaten by kohanim, and it has to be eaten in the azara, and it has to be eaten only for 1 day and 1 night. Now, obviously, this pasuk does not sound like heter mitzaref list. So this pasuk sounds like no saying tam, right? Tam ke'ikr. It sounds like tam ke'ikr. But the way the article explains it is that according to Rabbi Akiva, this pasuk he learned already tam ke'ikr from Gulei of the Chafim. So why does the korban chatas tell me about blia, or absorbing the chatas in the shlamim, right? It must be that since it's extra, we don't need it for tam ke'ikr, so therefore it's kishmi heter mitzaref leser. He already has a makora, a source for heter mitzaref leser from Mishra. So here also heter mitzaref leser, and therefore if you ate the meat of korban chatas, right, with a shlamim, right, it's not exactly what the drasha is telling you, but if the chatas with the shlamim, even though a chatas, right, the shear for eating chatas be chayiv the kezayis and the shlamim, right, so if you ate nosa, right, it passed the time for the korban chatas, right? It was after a day and a night, and you ate it mixed with shlamim, meaning kazayis, you'd be chayiv heter mitzaref leser, even though it's not really talking about blia over here. Rabbanan. Oh, the Rabbanan. So it's richi. No, the Rabbanan say you can't say it's shnei ksubin among ke'echad because of Rachmana. Right. According to the Rabbanan, I mean, obviously, Nazir is not teaching me heter mitzaref leser. It's teaching me tam ke'ikr. Right. So if I have tam ke'ikr, so why didn't I say that you have tam ke'ikr from Nazir, and I have tam ke'ikr by the korban chatas, which is a simple explanation of the brisa, which means that the chatas imparts taste in the shlamim. You have to treat the shlamim like the chatas, right? So if you shtei ksuvim al ge'echad, then you shouldn't be able to learn tam ke'ikr the rest of the Torah. So therefore, the Rabbanan no answer is shrichi. You need both psukim. Because of Rachman gabe chatas. If it would have just said the idea of tam ke'ikr by chatas, having a Nazir lo asimina, you want to at least learn Nazir from him. Which the Nazir min kachim l'alfina. Nazir is chulin, right? It applies to a regular person. It's not kachim. Grapes are not kachim. So you can't learn from kachim. Because of Rachman gabe Nazir, which said by Nazir, how many Nazir l'alfina? We shouldn't learn from Nazir to chatas. Mishum the chamer yisurei. I feel the charts and asralei. Nazir is unique, right? That even the grape peels, which is not usually edible, it's still asr the Nazir. So therefore, you can't learn one from another. So therefore, they're both necessary, and we would learn from Nazir, right? It's not sheikh subin abayin ke'echad. We would learn from Nazir, right? The whole concept of sheikh subin abayin ke'echad is the reason the Torah went out of here to write something double is to teach me don't learn anything from these. These are the only two cases it applies to. But if they're both necessary, so you could learn from Nazir, tam ke'ikr to the entire Torah. Rabbi Akiva Amar La. Rabbi Akiva said to you, "Lamai sricha." You don't need both of them. Bishlam because Rachman chatas l'garmin Nazir minay. I agree to you. If we just said chatas, you can't learn Nazir from it. The chulin mikachim l'garmin. You can't learn chulin from kachim. Kachim are more severe. Ela klichto Rachmana ben Nazir. If we just said by Nazir, we say chatas minay. You could learn chatas minay. Hakol yisurin shabbat Torah chagamri min Nazir. Right? You learn. Right? He doesn't subscribe to this. The fact that chartzon is unique by Nazir. It's the grape peel. I mean, grape peels are edible in certain circumstances. You would eat the grape peels with a grape, maybe not by itself. So that's not a chumrah by Nazir, right? And therefore, we should learn Chol Yisrael Shabbat Torah Chagam Nazir, right? Technically, right? Nazir could teach me, and therefore Chatas is an extra pasuk, and it should be Shtei Ksuvim Amon Ke'echad, and we should learn Tam Ke'ikr into the entire Torah. Rabbanan Amri L'cha. Doesn't say to you, no, to Rabbi Akiva, chatas al heter mitzaref le'isra v'chul mikachim l'garminan. Okay, fine. Maybe I'll tell you they're both not necessary. Chatas is talking about heter mitzaref le'isr, right? Before we were saying no, but he was talking about tam keker. No, I'll admit to you, it's talking about heter mitzaref le'isr. The chulin mikachim lo gamrina, right? You can't learn chulin from kachim. You can't learn nazir from that. A mishras, like we thought, like the Rabbanan thought, it's more reasonable to say litin tam keker. So they're not teaching the same thing. I agree to you. They're teaching, right? They're both, right? They're necessary. But Chatas teaches me heter mitzaref le'isr, like we explained before, and Mishras teaches me tam keker. So I have one pasuk. It's not a shteik of keker. It's one pasuk of tam keker. We learn the entire Torah. We kind of down the cholis to Torah. Rekiva and Rekiva Tarvayel heter mitzaref le'isr. But how will shteik of keker? Rekiva, who learned Mishras, was heter mitzaref le'isr. It was more reasonable to darshan that Mishras means. It's machlok is what the word Mishras means. Mishras means you're soaking the grapes, or you're soaking, right, your bread in the wine. Right, or according to my explanation that I gave, that you eat, right? You help digest the bread by the wine. So it's just a question of what the word mishra sounds better to you. Like, therefore, both are for the same thing, and and therefore you can't learn from it. Amalei Rav Ashi the Rav Kahana. Rav Ashi is Rav Kahana. El had the son of Michal Shar Yasim Gefani Yayin. Leave it al Isri Nazir. Shem is Sarfin Zaim. That we have a pasuk. Mikol, an extra word. Anything make a yayin, right? All the Yisuri Nazir, right? They join together to form a kazayas. You eat the grape seeds, you eat the grape peels, you eat the pulp of the grape, right? According to one opinion, you eat the leaves, you eat the shoots. Together they form a kazayas. So Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, who says heter is mitzaref le'isr. Actually, Shalom heter mitzaref le'isr. If heter joins together with Isser to form the share of a kazai, it's Isser le'isr. Why do you need Isser le'isr? It's no reason to say Michal Shai Tzem Kavayai. I'm like heter le'isr ba'asach. No, there's a difference. Heter joins with Isser only if you eat it together, right? You dip the bread in the wine. You eat it in one bite of kazayas. Isser le'isr afilu b'zeh kazay. Isser applies even if you eat it tokdei afilas pras, right? You eat it in 9 minutes, let's say, and you eat it a little bit at a time. But at the end of 9 minutes, you had a kazayas. That's the Chiddush of Isser le'isr. Rabbi Shimon, the marker continues, Rabbi Shimon, on top of Lamed Chem and Aleph, the lace late siruf. Right. Rabbi Shimon, we mentioned earlier in the Masechta on Daf Daled that the only time the Torah gave an Isser of Kazayas, right, a share of Kazayas, is only by being Chayav a Korban Chatas. However, to violate an Isser in the Torah, even Kol Shehu, you're Chayav for eating. A little bit of an Isser, a little bit, right? Chayla, for example, is Chayav a Chatas. But a Nazir, which is an Isser Lav, so eating a little bit of a grape is Asr. Mikol Asher Yasem eat my Darish, right? What does he do, right? According to the Rabbanan, Mikol Asher Yasem teach me a little bit, add that to Gazayas. According to Shimon, you don't need to add to Gazayas. What does he do with the pasuk Mikol Asher Yasem? My Darish, right? Amar Lecha, Humi Boy Leila Olam Eino Nazir Ashi Yazar Mikul. In Machlokes earlier in Daf Daled, Bein the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says you're not going to become a Nazir until you say Harini Nazir. Until you say, or if you say I'm asking myself in grapes, in shaving, and in Mitam Mason. By according to Rabbanan, I just say I'm answering myself, Ari Nazir in terms of Mitam Mason, or one of the three, it makes you a Nazir in everything. According to Shimon, you have to say all three of them. Amr Rebel, Amr Lazar. Let's continue a little bit to the two dots. Amr Rebel says the name of Lazar. Kol Reviyah Shabbat Torah and Heter Mitzaref Le'isr. Chus Reviyah Shabbat Nazir. Shari Amr Torah Mishras. It's a little different than what we've been saying until now. According to Rabbi Lazar, this is Rabbi Abahu named Rabbi Lazar. Before it was Rabbi Abahu named Rabbi Yochanan. According to this opinion, Rabbi Lazar, right, the concept of Heter Mitzaref Le'isr does apply by Nazir, but instead of pas and wine together forming a kazayas, you need 2 drinks, a little bit of, right, let's say apple juice and grape juice. I'll be done in 1 minute. Apple juice and grape juice joined together to form a revius, right? 1/8 of 1/8 instead of 1/4, right? 1/8 and 1/8 of apple juice and grape juice together. Shayam Torah Mishras. Ma'ika ben Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar. What's the difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar? Rabbi Yochanan says Hatem Mitzaref Le'isr, right? Bread and wine. He says apple juice and grape juice. Ika benayu. Rabbi Yochanan Marbi Afilu Ochlan. Rabbi Akiva Mashkin in Midi Achrini Lo. According to Rabbi Yochanan's version, it's even bread and Mitzaref Le'isr to form a kazai. As Rabbi Akiva, no, you need 2 drinks, but pas and yayin, right? Bread and wine would not form together would not be heter mitzaref l'isser. So both Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan agree heter mitzaref l'isser, but according to Rabbi Lazar, it's only drinks together, and they form together a revius. It has to be a revius. And according to Rabbi Yochanan, even heter mitzaref l'isser by food and drink together, with wine and bread together, and there the share is achila of a kazayas. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Yud Ben Sion, where we try to finalize my new pshat in Mishras of Sharapita Bayayin, Yud Ben Sion, coming up next.